Hello everyone, it's Eon here, and it's time to preview October 2024. It's the last quarter of the year, so I figured we'd change up the background graphic a little bit and move forward as we go about. So let's get started. We got quite a bit to look at in fantasy, some a little bit more than others. Arbiter Miniatures is doing Mighty Ogres this month. They have currently released 3 different sculpts of the ogres, and you can see these do come with multiple head options. Archvillain Games is doing Bloodright, the Crimson Legion this month. Here we see Lord Vladis the Eternal. Now, this being the preview video, we're not going to show every single miniature, but we are going to show several to kind of give you a sampler of what you see. We'll do the full release once October begins. Well, we have a Dark Fanged Bat Swarm and a Dracolath Terror. Valora, the Revenant Queen, and a Fleshvine Orchid. We have Ravina Blackwing and a Blutger Harrower. These will come in multiple sculpts, so we're not going to show all of the sculpts just yet. We have a Bloodgyre Marauder and a Lamia. Looking at that R, sorry. We have a Drakenthar. I'm not sure what that is. It's some sort of centaur with the body of like a man bat. Okay. Bloodgyre Shepherd. Not sure if these are werewolves or like gnolls. I would assume werewolves. Bite the Bullet Studios has done their preview for the month of October. We're going to see Grove Haven, which is a lot of characters that are like forest creatures. So if you're into something like burrows and badgers, these may be great proxy miniatures for that wargame. As always, they have a throwback, and the throwback includes these miniatures. Clay Beast Creation has released a few previews of things coming in October, and their theme is Crypt Nightmares. These are called Marrow Constructs. Then we have the Immortal Sages and the Bone Crawler. Crippled God Foundry has released their release for the month of October, and these are the Deathbringers. Well, again, we'll preview more of the minis when the month begins, but we see Alberic the Death Knight Lord over on the right, and we have some Centaur Death Knights. We have some Death Knights on the left. Looks like he was lucky. He took an arrow everywhere but to the knee, so he's probably still some good. And the Death Drake Riders on the right. We have Lyriel, the Elf Shield Mating, and Brother Fidden, the Exorcist. He's very animated. I like that miniature a lot. And we have Sir Thalion, who comes mounted or not. Actually, I like all of these hero miniatures. Good job, Crippled God. As if you need that from me. And I did want to include this piece of terrain because it reminds me of my childhood. I'm sure it reminds a lot of you of yours as well. Next up, we have DM Stash. DM Stash is doing Bound in the Blood Moon. Now, DM Stash typically does a release of a lot of miniatures as well as some terrain. And with their terrain, they have a 2D map, and with 3D terrain that you print off, you put it on top, and you have a whole complete battlefield. But just to highlight a few of their miniatures, we have some Werewolf Warriors. Very nice werewolves, I would say. And Arthur Belfry, the Lord of the Coven. We have an Abominable Werewolf, Bloodclaw, an Elven Sundancer, Kahira. We have a Wendigo, excuse me. Sometimes I just misspeak, but that one caught me. I thought it was a Wendigo until I looked at that, and again, it was a Wendigo monstrosity, Dreadclaw. And we have a shambling corpse mound, which you could see earlier in the map. Dragon Trapper's Lodge has several different tiers, and apparently they're changing. We'll get to that in just a second. So their lower tier, which I think is called the Trapper tier, we have the Ruining of Lothshire Village, and it's mostly concept art at this point. And if you look at this, there's a lot going on in this miniature. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of teeth. And we see this miniature as well. Poor Lothshire. It would appear that they're going to need some heroes to come to their aid, and I hope that that's what these people are doing. And I'm always a fan of villagers, and so I really like the classic look of these miniatures, and I wanted to include the concept art. Again, I'm not including everything, as this is a preview, but it appears that Dragon Trapper's Lodge really hates their villagers and are going to ruin them. Literally. These poor people. Oh my God. Someone please help these villagers. Next up, we have the Soldier tier with Dragon Trapper's Lodge, and these are going to be the critter folks. I forget the title they used last month. So we could see some mice driving a turtle with a ballista on top. Those are things you never think you'll say, right? We see some bunnies on frog mounts. We also see various bunnies with various halberds or pole arms. Again, more mounted bunnies and frogs. Now, I have always been a fan of squirrels in Robin Hood costumes. It just fits for some reason. And I used to really like squirrels until one decided to get into my attic years ago. That was not fun. But again, I really like this motif. It just feels natural. So I really enjoy this art. Great job, Dragon Trappers. Now, for the end of this, they have the Dungeon Classics. So this is like a third tier, and I was wondering, I speculated in one of the previous videos about it said Patreon. It had a little Patreon symbol next to it, and I was like, what exactly does that mean? So reading verbatim from Dragon Trapper's Lodge, Dungeon Classics, a new Patreon/tribe. Yes, you read that right. We had so much fun creating classic models. Plus, with a new edition of D&D on the horizon, we've decided to launch a brand new tribe/Patreon in October. This will be fully separate from the current Patreon tribe and will allow us to devote resources toward creating models that you can find in the Monster Manual. Well, I guess we'll be adding a new tribe to my videos come the month of October. But for now, they have these previews of several undead, which is probably fitting for October. Alright, y'all, Epic Miniatures is up, and they're always epic. Right now, we only can see update number 1, which is Legends of the East. They're looking to do 51 models in this release for a total of 100 for the month of October. So we have several different pieces of terrain and various ships to get our characters around. We see a Shaolin monk on the left, and on the right, it's hard to tell without the paint job, is a panda bear. These do come in a few different sculpts we'll look at when the month actually begins. Here we have a phoenix hatchling on the left and a false emperor on the right. Again, without the paint job, it's difficult to tell. I would have just thought that was some sort of panther, but that's actually a tiger. And on the right, we probably don't need to introduce this character. It's a movie I need to go back and watch. We have a drunken master. On the left, we have a legendary Ronin, and on the right, an Oni samurai. On the right, we have an Asura prince, and on the left is a turtle Zila. Flesh of Gods Miniatures has done their preview for the month of October. Now, we're not going to look at the full sneak peek. I'm going to save some of these minis for the month of October, and we'll look at everything they have then. But we see the Great Old One. We have a Tome Wraith and the Dark Mother. We have a Void Brute and Grigor, Son of the Void. There's actually another version of him, but I did not include it for not be too repetitive. On the right, we have a Void Saint, and on the left, we have a Void Chancellor. It's a very different looking miniature. We have Thebius, the Undead Sorcerer. And we have Gary the Grey, who's a catfolk wizard. Would he be a Grey or would he be a Tabby? We have Sigils of the Void. Again, I like the frame dioramas that Flesh of Gods does. And we see some possessed villagers. Next up, we're looking at the preview from Fleshcraft Studios, and they are doing the Bloody Cellar. Now, they like to do their graphic in one big thing, and so in the attempt of showing you what it looks like as you go down it, we see Edric the Cruel, who is the master miniature in this case, also comes with a trophy. We have a Champion, which is the Sadists. And then we have some Elites, which are 3 Excruciators. And then finally we have 5 Minions, which are the Withered. Ghamak has released some concept art for their month of October release. On the left, we have dwarves. Do I need to say anything more? Oh, but look on the right. We have apparently a couple of, are those goblins dressed as dwarves trick-or-treating? Okay, I'm not a goblin fan. Well, the dwarf in me does not like goblins, but that is cute. I really like that. That's a great diorama, Ghamak. We have orc on the left, and we have some human of some sort on the right. Apparently, these are some generic troops with various melee weapons, or even a primitive musket of sorts. Goonmaster Games has a few things coming up. First off, they're going to be doing a Kickstarter, 3D Printable Basing Bits 3. They do a very good job of releasing extra things that you can print off and add to the bases of your miniatures. And so this is going to be designed specifically for that. So don't forget to go and sign up. You can see that I was number 427 to sign up once I hit that notify after I took this screen grab. But they have the Filthy Flyfolk as a preview for the month of October. And they also have something called Lumpkins, which look like it's a blurred out image. I couldn't really show it. I probably should have taken that and put it on here. It's a locked post, but looks like some pumpkin-headed characters, maybe? Great Grimoire has released their month's preview, and I really like the theming of these. These are just very nice diorama miniatures. First, we see Azilmera with her dancing goat. No kidding. We have Freylon. Why is he? If he's such a holy man, what has he got in his other hand? We have Casimir, probably just a misunderstood fellow with a heart of gold, I bet. And then, of course, a bust of Azilmera as well. Great Grimoire does some very nice work bringing some literary characters to life in minis form. Highlands Miniatures is another Patreon/tribe that will be doing a frontier very soon. Fantasy Fillers and Heroes. They've done this before. This time they're focusing on their human faction. I forget, Sunland is the name of the faction. I'll be putting a link for that down below, again, just to help support them out. Transylvania, The Fallen Realm, is the release for October for Highlands Miniatures. We have some Vampire Knights, which you saw on the previous screen. And here's a couple more close-ups of a couple more. There will also be a Grim Reaper. A couple of different angles there. As well as a Skeletal Guard. And there will be several of these. Next up, we have Imp3 Desion. Imp3 Desion has put out a few previews. We have what appear to be some elves with bows. I'm sure they'll see you before you see them. Next up, we have Labyrinth Models, and I was really surprised at how many previews they had. They had, oh dear God, a spider demon. Did we really need that? We have the Dark Elf Assassins. The Dark Elf Sorcerers. Starting to see a theme here. We have a Spider Vestals. And Spider Cultists. And the first miniature they previewed was this Spider Witch. It's a misspelling on my part. Sorry, y'all. Spider Witch, which was a Halloween bonus model. One Page Rules is releasing more Shadow Stalkers this month. Also the Human Defense Force. Go watch the Grimdark Sci-Fi video and you can see more about them. But we're going to focus on the Shadow Stalkers. The legendary for this month will come from the Shadow Stalkers, and I suppose that is the miniature there, perhaps? I'm not sure. But we have the legendary, which is the Ascended Fiend. I feel like it's more of the one with the rider on it. We also have a Reaper Champion ×2, a Flying Beast. Well, maybe that's the Flying Beast then. We have some Reapers, some Fiends, a Great Fiend, and some Gaminades and themed bases. Also, we have for our Age of Fantasy quest, the Vinci Bard. Rescale Miniatures is got a release this month. They are going to be doing Hollow Graves. And these are the preview images. They have the first preview image here, and the second preview image. Now, they have released a few other previews of their dragon, and this was the first preview they did of the Charon, I suppose it is, on the boat. But look at the detail of this chariot. And I usually try to keep the icon in the bottom left, but I just wanted a full look at this image. I know most of that's a render, but that is just really nice. Estudio has released a preview of this month. It looks like to be 3 different packets. We have your Western RPG over on the right, so I suppose these are miniatures designed to go along with the, those types of RPG characters you may have seen. On the left, we have some classic Japanese RPG characters. And then we have the anime series miniatures that are inspired. And they're not even hiding the title. All right. STL Miniatures has released their preview for the month of October. It will be the Masquerade set. I want to play some Andrew Lloyd Webber now. We also were putting out the Terror Wing for the Rangers release, as well as a set of slimes for the Frost City release. More on Frost City in a minute. And just to show you a couple of the miniatures, these characters all come in masquerade masks, whether waiter or noble or person that we can see there. Again, we'll look more detail of this in the month of October. But I also want to go ahead and give them a shout out. And again, I will leave a link for this in the comments below. They are, or in the description, probably both. But they are doing a 3D printable, the Frost City 3 Miniatures and Terrain. It says completing the saga. Will this be the last one? I'm not sure. But these are always great Patreons and tribes to support. Or Kickstarters in this case. Terrain Essentials has given us a small preview. I'm going to read what they have posted along with this. It says, "Who's ready for the next stop? Kelsey Castle. Few places are as shunned as the ruins of that great family. I hesitated coming here, but the heirloom's portents cannot be ignored. The moment I set foot in the castle, I felt I was being watched. Rumors tell of ghosts of Kelsey still guarding the place. I do not know if this has influenced me, but I cannot deny I feel nervous." Curious to see what the third release for that tribe, Patreon, will really bring us. Titanforge Miniatures has released their preview for October. This is pretty much their full release. So we'll be seeing Carnival Volume 2, Orcs, as well as a few RPG miniatures. So just to kind of preview in some of the Orcs, you see the main Orc can come in as a rider, or we can actually separate him out from the critter as well, which we'll see in a minute. I did want to show the rider on his own on the left. This reminds me of the Black Orcs from Games Workshop back in the day. It was one of the first miniatures I ever received as a teenager from a hobby store. It was like a sample mini, and it just brings back a happy memory for me. On the left, we see Carnival miniature, and we can see the mount without a rider. The back end of that is very different. Anyway, some more Carnival releases here, and some of the RPG releases that we can look forward to. Again, they usually do about 3 heroes and then a handful of bad guys for you to fight against. They also will be doing a time shift, is what they refer to it, where they bring back an old release and release it for you, and it's been chosen to do the Wildwood Sanctum release. TPK Lab has done a preview for the month of October, and most of this is more concept art, early render type stuff. This is Bella. This is Grata. Then we have Maristha, a Lich Lord apparently, and a scenery piece, which is the Cursed Tree. White Werewolf Tavern has released some concept art at this stage, and so we see Malevolent Mischief, and we have the Nightshade Sisters. And I like the whimsy of this image. I think we see who it's probably sort of modeling in some ways, or who it may be inspired by. But as we go deeper into their concept art, it gets a little darker. Alberta the Soulflayer on the left, Bonesmith on the right. The Crimson Huntress, I hope she still has her hand. Seraphim the Dreadmother, the farther down you go, the more confusing it gets. The Grimblade Revenant, and the Skullbreaker. And then they have the Inferno Hound, apparently intended for someone to ride. Worldforge Miniatures has released a preview for the month of October, and this seems to be the Market Collection 3. There are several different tents and objects for sale, things to put together in lots of different ways. So this seems to be like various herbs, plants for sale. This on the right is maybe some food, maybe some hookah bars, not entirely sure. Anyway, there's a lot going on there. We'll come back and do a more in-depth preview once the month of October has started and Patreons have started putting out, hey, it's the first of the month, these are our releases. I'll probably have that out for you next weekend. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.